payroll reconciliation form that will reconcile your payroll tax returns that you have submitted throughout the year to your W-2s at the end of the year. The first thing you want to do is pull out all of your 941s that have actually been submitted to the IRS and enter the gross wages here in column C for each quarter. Then you want to enter the federal withholding from those forms here in column E for each quarter. You want to look at the total FICA reported on each of those forms, as well as the Medicare reported for each of those forms. Now, I do want to point out that this worksheet will total the FICA and the Medicare, and then it will also divide that by 2, because again, remember, the Social Security and Medicare, half of that is withheld from the employee's wages, while the other half is paid by the company. So therefore, only half of the total reported Social Security and Medicare reported on the 941s are actually entered on the W-2s for each employee. So what you want to do once you enter all of those amounts here into the spreadsheet, then you want to grab your W-3 summary and just make sure that what's shown in the gross wages box for all employees matches what you have in the gross wages that you have submitted for all of your 941s. And again, for the federal, just make sure that the total of all the federal withholding reported on all of your quarterly 941s match what's reported on that W-3. And then you'll do that again for FICA and Medicare. Over here to the far right, we have the state withholding. Now, some companies are on monthly. Some companies are on where they have to remit the tax deposit for every payroll, and some may even be quarterly. So if you're quarterly, just enter the March for the first quarter, and then you'll want to go to June for the second quarter, September for the third quarter, December for the fourth, and then it will total your quarterly. Here I just have the monthly as though we submitted those forms monthly. It will also total those for every month, and then you want to make sure that that matches what has been what is showing on your W-3 form. Now, if we scroll on down, I have also included for some states that have the city and county withholding. Here is where you would enter the first quarter liability on the return submitted and enter that for every quarter. And then you also want to make sure that that matches your W-3 as well. Over here to the left, you'll see I have a reconciliation for the 940, which is an annual return. This is a way just to make sure what the tax deposits or the deposits that you submitted for the 940 do match what your total liability should be. So here you just enter your gross wages and then figure your excess wages. That would be any wages for each employee that have been paid for which are over $7,000. Down here you have the state unemployment, which we refer to as SUTA, state unemployment tax. Here you will enter the gross wages, and then you will enter the total excess wages, and you can find those on your returns. There is a place where they will have the gross wages for each quarter, and then they will have a place for the total excess wages on each quarter. You just want to take those returns and add up the gross wages submitted for each quarter, and then also add up the excess wages submitted for each quarter. Then you'll take your gross wages less your excess wages. I do have a formula in here that will calculate that for you, if you notice up here. And that will give you your taxable wages. I've also created the worksheet to automatically fill in the number that is calculated up here to your total taxable wages down here, where it will take those wages times your liability percentage, which is for this particular company 0.3%, to figure what your total liability was for the year. Then over here, if you notice under the 940 as well, these are the payments that have been submitted for each quarter. A lot of times now, I will say that on your 940, a lot of your companies will submit that total amount at the end of the year. So you may not have a quarterly payment for your 940. Under the state unemployment, though, you are required to submit that quarterly. So you should have a quarterly payment for every quarter unless everyone's wages were in excess for the third and fourth quarter. Now, that will happen a lot of times when you have the same employees working all year round. A lot of times when you hit that third and fourth quarter, there is no liability. However, you are required to file that return. So you just want to make sure that your payments here are totaled here by the software. There is a formula to total those, match what the system has calculated for your total liability. So I have used this reconciliation for years, and I will say that I have never had an issue with a W-2 being reported for the wrong amount. I really believe if you use this reconciliation when you submit your W-2s, as long as all of these amounts for which I've just gone over match your W-3, which is the total page for all of your W-2s that you're going to submit. I really feel like you will submit those W-2s properly as long as you submit them to the right agencies. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.